We're parents, teachers, and educators, and like you, we're passionate about restoring our culture for Christ. This is Veritas Vox, the voice of classical Christian education.
Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Veritas Vox, the voice of classical Christian education. Today we have with us Dave Peterson. Dave, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on. I've been looking forward to this ever since we connected.
Well, that's great. We're excited to have you on. You are, of course, the founder of Scholarship GPS, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But before we get into that and how you can help our students and anyone listening with college scholarships, tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, your education, your career.
Sure. So I'm a husband, been married to my wife for 28 years. We are college sweethearts. We met at Florida State University where she was studying speech pathology and I was getting my degree in economics and political science.
My pastor would love that. He thinks there is only one university in Florida.
Well, unfortunately, this year, football-wise, that one university would not be Florida State.
Not this year.
But last year was a great year to be a Seminole. Not so much this year. We have one son. Our son just graduated from Grove City College in Pennsylvania, and he is just recently engaged. He'll be getting married this spring to a wonderful Christian gal. And he's currently living in Grand Rapids, Michigan, has his first job. He is also an economist. I shouldn't say also, because although I got my degree in economics, I never practiced. But he is a practicing full-fledged economist working in public policy. So graduated debt-free, and that's kind of the origin story for my business, Scholarship GPS.
Well, that's wonderful. So when did you founded this organization called Scholarship GPS? When was it founded? And I can assume this, but I don't know this. Tell us what the letters GPS are intended for.
Yeah, so GPS is a play on global positioning system. Basically, you know, the thing in your car or on your phone that gives you directions to get where you want to go. And so Scholarship GPS, the tagline is your directions to a debt-free college degree. So yeah, I founded the business about 4 years ago now, and I got into it because like many Americans, when my son hit high school and I realized college was not too far down the road, I need to think about how we're going to pay for this. And when I looked at the numbers, I was shocked that how expensive college had gotten from the time I graduated until it was going to be time for my son to go. And quickly realized we did not have enough money saved to get him through debt-free. So I started to learn about scholarships and was fortunate that he had some early success, which was motivating for our whole family. And by the time he graduated high school, he had accumulated over $50,000 in private scholarships. So that does not include anything that he got from the college he went to. And so a lot of friends and family ask us, how did you guys do this? So for about a year after we got him off to Grove City College, I worked with some friends and family and realized that this is not necessarily unique to my son, that students who will put in some time and effort and follow some general guidelines can have success with scholarships. So that was the impetus for the business, and have been doing this professionally for 3 or 4 years now.
Okay, that's wonderful. What was your career before that?
I worked in the corrugated box industry. Believe it or not, actually.
I could see how those were related.
Yeah, oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah, yep. My father-in-law invented a part that goes on the machines that make the boxes. And so he built a business around selling that part, which eventually grew to a few other parts as well as a service business. So I was kind of a office manager, marketing manager, sales manager, kind of jack of all trades. Twice they took me into a plant to work on the box machines, and they said, you need to go back to the office.
Oh, that's funny. I'm sure that's a little bit overstated, but I do understand the principle.
Yeah, yep. I am not a handyman in any sense of the word.
Well, in simple terms, with Scholarship GPS, what is it that you target for your clientele? What is a win for your clientele?
Well, our mission is to help students graduate debt-free while also helping the parents not drain their life savings in the process. Now, a win is going to vary depending on the student, depending on the family's goals, but just helping them get as close to they can as a debt-free degree is really, that's our mission.
Yeah, that's wonderful. One of the things I checked on this with our headmaster just before connecting on this recording with you. And most recently for us, our full-time students in Veritas Scholars Academy, our online school, average across all students, average $40,000 a year in scholarships.
That is phenomenal.
We're very encouraged by that number, and I am very thankful for the team that has helped make that a reality. But I suspect that most of that is coming directly from the institutions to which they apply and ultimately go. So that we're dealing with the presidential scholarship or some other scholarship that's issued by the school, but you're dealing in a completely different category as I understand it. Talk to us a little bit about the roles that the role that you play, or not yet on the role that you play, but rather the scholarships that you help people acquire.
Yeah, so that is an important distinction. So I categorize scholarships or financial aid more broadly kind of into three buckets. First would be need-based aid, and this is where students and families fill out their FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. I don't help with that at all. That you would want to talk to a financial advisor about how you can structure your family finances to qualify for that, if that's even possible. So that's bucket number one.
And you make a very good distinction by saying how you can structure your finances, because it is truly amazing what counts against you and what doesn't. There is a strategy in that, and I understand that's not today's conversation, but it's worth noting.
Yeah, it is, especially if you're, middle to upper income family. It's worth a conversation with somebody who knows about that world. So absolutely. The second category of scholarships are merit-based scholarships, and this is where I think the number that you threw out of 40,000 a year most likely comes from. So these are going to be scholarships offered from the colleges themselves. They're based on merit. They're based on the student's proven abilities, either academically, artistically, or athletically. So when you hear about the star quarterback from the high school who gets a full-ride scholarship, that's a merit scholarship. Likewise, the bright student who gets, $40,000 a year to attend X college, that's a merit scholarship as well. So I don't help too much with those because those are based on the things the student has on their resume and their transcript. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a coach, at least not an academic coach or an athletic coach. But the third category is where I focus my efforts with the students I work with, and that is through private scholarships offered by businesses and philanthropic organizations. And these range from big multinationals like Coca-Cola is a very well-known scholarship. You recently had on Amity Schlaze from the Coolidge Foundation. They have a fantastic scholarship for high school juniors. That's a full ride scholarship. Highly recommend that one.
The college of the student's choice.
Exactly. Any college, accredited college in the country. What a great prize to win. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about some of the other reasons that Veritas students should be applying for scholarships. But yeah, so those are the types of scholarships that I help families with, whether it's helping them find the scholarships, helping them understand which ones best fit the student, and then helping with things like the applications and essays. Now, I do not write the student's essay. That would be completely unethical, but I'm here as a sounding board to bounce ideas off of. I do help with editing, everything from spelling and grammar to if I'm working with a student for a while, I've gotten to know them, I'll say, hey, you didn't talk about this great achievement. You should add that this is something you should talk about in your application. So that's the type of work that I do.
Yeah. And I want to make sure that everyone's clear. You charge for your services and have a varying, depending on what the services are or what you charge for them. Probably best for us not to quote them here, because this might be seen a year or two from now where that's no longer true. But I can tell you from what you've told me, they are eminently reasonable, and any single scholarship accomplished by someone will pay for itself many times over from what you do charge. So I
Yeah,
don't know our
that
listeners.
was my goal in the way I priced my services. Now I have a range of programs that I offer. One where it's very hands off for me because it's an online course. So I've shared all of the knowledge that I've gained over about the last 7 or 8 years about scholarships, put it into a series of short videos that both the students and parents can watch and pretty much learn just about everything that I would know to tell them without knowing them personally. And
Does
so I
that
priced
also
that.
then provide them direct information for scholarship application?
It provides direct information on how and where to find scholarships,
Yeah.
how to know which ones are a good match for the student, and some tips on essays and applications.
Okay.
So really detailed but not personalized. So and I really did price that in a way that, like you said, just one even small scholarship win will drastically more than pay for that. And then beyond that, I do have personalized one-on-one services where I'm doing the essay editing, coaching, going out and finding scholarships on the student's behalf. So yeah, and those prices, because they take up a lot of time and effort on my end, I price them accordingly. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Scholarship coaching is a term that you used.
Mhm.
That would involve effective techniques for filling out applications, probably strategic discussion points when there are in-person interviews and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's really uh, uh, probably, I mean, these kinds of things become very personal fairly quickly. But what are some general principles that make students successful at getting this third category of scholarships that you've referred to?
Yeah, great question. So I think one of the keys, I sometimes refer to this as the secret sauce of winning scholarships, is what I call the student's personal narrative, which is built around the 5 pillars. 5 pillars being academics, extracurriculars, volunteering, work or employment experience, and leadership. Now, I want to be clear, that's not a checklist. A student doesn't have to have something to check off in every one of those categories. It's great if they do. Those are just different ways that students can demonstrate their interest and their abilities. What's really critical is that they have a story pulling from those categories about who they are and where they're going. So now students can certainly win scholarships without this, but to have repeatable success, I have found that students who have that story and then learn how to craft it through essays or other projects tend to have more success. So that's really, like I said, it's kind of the secret sauce.
Yeah. I was just reminded of something from my high school. I went to a public high school in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania,
Okay.
High School, and I was fortunate enough to get a golf scholarship.
Oh, wow.
Entire, and there was a scholarship opportunity. The former president of a local bank serving the market where my high school was did not have any heirs, and so he gave his wealth to a scholarship fund that literally got to a point where they couldn't give enough of it away based on the standards of the will. So the will had to be, the program had to be modified. It was originally just for young men back in the 70s at this point. And it was a certain amount of money per year. That amount of money per year was quintupled.
Wow.
And women were added to it. And I remember very distinctly a personal interview with the current bank president and the people around. I don't know if it was school board or bank board, but all they wanted to talk about was golf. They didn't care about anything else. It was a personal thing for them. It was a given that I was going to get the money, just like everybody else that applied. If we had more of that, it would be wonderful. But that was a very unique situation. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
Well, I can't think of the name of it, but I think I'm actually familiar with that scholarship because I worked with actually 2 students, a boy
The
2 or 3 years ago.
Hibshman, Hibshman Scholarship.
Oh, no, that's definitely not it then. But okay, so another Pennsylvania scholarship related to golf that I worked with students
Oh,
a
this
few years
wasn't
ago.
related to golf. They just wanted to talk about
Oh,
golf.
they just wanted to talk
So
about
the
golf. I see.
scholarship had
Okay.
nothing to do with it. All
I
I had
gotcha.
to be was a breathing male at the time.
Okay.
Now you can be a breathing male or female, but
Yeah, yep.
that's all it
Okay.
took then.
Yeah, yep. Well, that does illustrate a point though, in that I don't know the exact number because have heard different numbers from different sources, but I think at a low end, there's something like $100 million in scholarship funds that go unclaimed every year.
Oh my
Now,
word.
if you watch the documentary that the Dave Ramsey organization put out a couple years ago, they give a lot larger number and they quote the U.S. Department of Education. So I'll take them at their word, but let's just say it's $100 million. That's a lot of money floating out there that's going unclaimed.
Yeah, it sure is. And that's what you're here to help people like Veritas Scholars Academy students do.
Yeah, yeah.
So you've provided the coaching, you provide help with essays and applications, and of course, Scholarship GPS, the flagship course that you
Yep,
have. And
correct.
that's entirely asynchronous online.
Correct, exactly. Yeah, yep.
Very
Now,
good.
one other thing that I do, or I guess two other things, is that I do have a daily newsletter. It's free, goes out every day. Weekdays, I feature a different scholarship opportunity. Of course, some that I feature would be a match for your student, and some won't because it's just, random. On weekends, I feature what I call weekender scholarships, which are quick and easy, like 30-second to 2-minute entry, no essay, but they are legitimate in that they do pick winners. And then on Sundays, I have interviews with guests from the broader education space. So SAT experts, college admissions advisors, people like that. And then I repackage all of that in a weekly podcast called the Scholarship GPS Podcast, also available for free. So,
Very good.
uh, yeah.
So people can go to your website by Googling Scholarship GPS. I think you came up as the first result there.
Well,
Or
that's
maybe
encouraging.
Peterson with that would help it too, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Tell us a little bit about some of the myths that people have around scholarships. I mentioned the scholarship that was available at my high school. And I
Hmm.
remember one of my friends, who was the son of a doctor, did not allow his son to apply for it because he thought that it was a need-based form, technically then financial aid, I guess. I'm
Right.
not sure which is the catch-all category, scholarship.
Yeah, yep. So that is one of the myths that are out there, is that scholarships are only for people of lower income or lower means, and that's absolutely not the case. In fact, speaking private scholarship wise, the vast majority of scholarships don't know or don't even ask about your financial situation.
Yeah,
Yeah, yep. So that's definitely one myth that hopefully will be busted through this, is
yeah.
that no matter your financial situation, there are scholarships that your student is eligible for.
So when we talk about scholarship in terms of just thinking organizationally, scholarship would have merit-based and financial aid underneath it as two different categories of scholarship.
Yeah, yeah, and I do use the word scholarship a little bit loosely, because it includes things like the Veterans of Foreign Wars Voice of Democracy contest. Technically not a scholarship, but I consider it one. I mean,
Yeah.
a student wins $35,000 before their 18th birthday. That should be used for college or maybe setting them up for a business, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't be used to buy a car, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's understandable.
Yeah, yep.
One of the things that I was curious about, like these misunderstandings, is what other scholarship myths might exist out there. How can you help us understand a world that we don't deal with much a whole lot better?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think a big one for your listeners is going to be that homeschoolers. Now, I realize that Veritas is kind of a hybrid program,
We
if you
are
will.
what you want us to be.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. But a lot of people think that homeschoolers cannot win scholarships, and that's absolutely untrue. Just like many scholarships or most scholarships don't ask your financial situation, most of them, they might ask what school you attend or if you are a homeschooler, but most of them are not only open to homeschoolers, they're very happy to have homeschoolers. And in fact, one of the things I'd like to mention is that I've put together a free download of scholarships that I think would be really of interest to Veritas parents, students, and families. All they have to do is go to www, and unfortunately, you do have to do that www. I'm working on that. I'm not a tech guy, so but go to www.scholarshipgps.com/Veritas. It will ask you for your email address to be able to download it, but it's a document of about 10 scholarships that I think not only are a great fit to win some money for college, but could be incorporated into your curriculum, particularly around the types of issues that Veritas likes to emphasize, classical
Tell us that
education.
website again, because that's obviously a private website for people listening. Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Absolutely.
Let's say it again.
Yeah, www.scholarshipgps, like your GPS in your car.com/Veritas.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. I hope that people find that helpful. I'd love to get some feedback. Hopefully,
Yeah, absolutely. There are some fantastic opportunities on that list, some of which my son has won, some of which students I've worked with have won. So definitely worth checking out.
Very good. So scholarships are not just for low-income families. We're not just talking about financial aid. There's this whole category of merit-based opportunities or other types of qualifications that we may not even be thinking about.
Mhm.
Some other myths that people may lose opportunity for believing.
I think a big one is that scholarships are only for high school seniors or 12th grade students. That is a critical error. There are lots of reasons that students should be applying for scholarships earlier than that. First of which is they might win one.
Sure.
But more importantly, the more scholarships a student applies for, the better they get at it. It's just like anything, practice makes perfect. And by starting, well, believe it or not, there are scholarships for as young as grade school students. So
what now I'm that you've raised my I was going to ask the question, how young is too young? What would a scholarship in grade school look like? I'm curious.
yeah, well, one that is, I don't know exactly when this episode of your show will come out, but roughly right about now is the Carson Scholarship. That's a scholarship open to grades 4 through 11. So not even open to high school seniors, but early as fourth grade. Now, they judge a fourth grader differently than an 11th grader, and they award students of all ages. I don't know what the breakdown is, but for a fourth grader, they're going to want to see a student who has a decent academic record. I think they have a kind of unique grading scale. By their scale, they want to see a 3.75. How that translates, you'd have to look at their site. But if your student's in that range, it's worth looking at. And they have an emphasis on community service. Now, again, a fourth grader's community service is going to look very different than an 11th grader's, but they take that into consideration. So that's just one example of a scholarship open to younger students. The VFW Auxiliary, so the women's VFW, they have an art contest for younger students, and it's always around a patriotic theme. So again, most of these scholarships that are open to younger students are age appropriate, but it's never too young. But I would say by the time a student hits middle and high school age, I would like them to apply for at least a few scholarships a year. And then by junior year, I think it should really become part of the family's routine that scholarships are part of what we do as a family, just like you do your classes and maybe you have chores and whatever else.
Yeah.
So that by senior year, you have that experience, you've built some essays that you can repurpose for other scholarships. And then the student's just going to be such a better applicant, because I think where that myth of only being for seniors came from is that it's not only for seniors, but that is the largest year. Now, students can continue to win scholarships into college, and my son applied for scholarships, continue to win them, and I encourage anybody I talk to keep applying until you have enough money to pay for everything. So, yeah.
So the junior year is kind of the peak or the home stretch, so to speak. Does it start in 9th or 10th grade that it starts to get serious? Because one of the things I know for being familiar with the Coolidge Scholarship that you mentioned earlier is that there's considerable lead time. The process for that scholarship has almost got to be a full year from start to finish.
Well, In theory, it would be, because to do well, a student's going to need to learn a lot about Calvin Coolidge. So I
Right.
think that's going to require some reading. They provide a lot of great resources on their website about Calvin Coolidge, but I think a student should probably go a little bit deeper than that to do well. So yes, in theory, this is probably close to a 1 year process.
Is that
However,
common?
no, that's uncommon, and that's going to correspond with, this is a full ride for 4 years.
Yeah.
So this is going to take a little bit more
Yeah.
than a
Yeah.
$1,000 scholarship.
This isn't a coin flip or write a paragraph for $400,000.
Yeah, yep. So yes, as parents and students become aware of these scholarships, even if they're not eligible today, they can kind of, put them on a list and say, let's have this in the back of our mind, and let's incorporate Calvin Coolidge into our ninth graders curriculum so that in 11th grade they're a little more familiar. But the one thing I would say, that where it's not a year process, is that they don't open up the application a full year in advance. Now, I can't remember offhand when they open it. It's enough time that the student will be able to look at the essay prompts. They change every year. So as soon as it opens, that's really when you want to kind of kick things into gear on working with it.
Yeah. Are there other scholarships that would be of a similar ilk where they're both substantial and lengthy?
Yeah, there's one called the Brian Cameron Foundation Scholarship. This one is not full tuition, or excuse me, not full ride, but it's full tuition at any college of your choice for 4 years.
Wow.
So a very
The room
lengthy
and board
process.
is excluded.
Room and board would still be on you to figure out how to pay for, but they'll cover tuition at any college the student chooses. That one opens usually January to February, and they kind of have two deadlines. They have an early deadline, which is usually, if I remember right, around mid-May. And then they'll have a later deadline depending on how many applications they have remaining. They only accept, I can't remember if it's 4,000 or 5,000 total. But whatever that number is, once they hit that, it's closed. And this year it closed well before the start of the student's senior year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about the idea that getting overwhelmed by applications could be a burden on the distributor, on the benefactor, and the
Right.
deadlines and limits. That's interesting. Okay. Now, one of the things that I saw on your website is that scholarships like we're talking about are not just for college-bound students. Talk to me
Correct.
a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, let's use, what should we use? How about the VFW scholarship, their Voice of Democracy scholarship? In some cases, if the student's going to, say, trade school or technical school, they would be able to use those funds. Now, I don't know at the grand prize level if the VFW would just write a check. I don't believe so. I'd have to check on that. But there are some scholarships where if a student's not doing any higher education, maybe they're going to go straight into the workforce, it could still be an extra source of income because they pay the student directly. One example would be the Stossel in the classroom contest. They have both a video and an essay contest, and they pay the student directly with no caveat of how those funds are used. So I think the top prize is $2,500, and it's the student's money to use however they and their parents see fit. So
Wow.
yeah, you don't have to have a college-bound student. Trade and technical school can also be paid for with lots of scholarships. Of course, read the fine print, and it's usually not that fine. They're usually pretty clear on what you can use the funds for, and especially note those ones that will send you a check directly.
Yeah. Well, this has been fascinating because like many things, when we don't do it every day, we can't possibly gain expertise by experience. We have to learn from others. And the service that you provide is a real shortcut for people to learn how to get the financial assistance through scholarships that will help them have their student finish college without debt and be able to really not be strapped by it. And thankfully, it's in a whole different category than a simple category of debt forgiveness, which means somebody else pays it.
Exactly right.
A political conversation, but it's a reality that debt doesn't go away. It just gets transferred. But in this situation, we're talking about money that's come from sources of benevolence for the purpose that it's being expended. And we should be thankful for it and welcome it in our lives when we have the opportunity, shouldn't we?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a blessing for our family. Like I said, my son just graduated from college this past spring, and we ended up spending only $1,500 out of pocket for his entire degree. Everything else was covered by
Wow.
scholarships. So,
Well, I have two questions about a Grove City graduate. First of
all
all,
right.
is he an engineer?
No, he's an economist.
Okay,
Yeah.
engineer, being that's right, you said that earlier, and that would be another significant degree. Of course, engineering is a big degree there. The second one is, because I know this about Grove City also, did he find his spouse?
Well, he is engaged, but he did not meet her at Grove City. She went to another Christian school, not even in the same state. They met at an economics conference. It was definitely providential how they met.
That's great.
Yeah,
Grove
yeah,
City is known so much, as you probably know, for being a place where a lot of spouses meet. I can't tell you how many people I've met that are married to Grove City graduates as Grove City graduates.
yeah. There's a joke, and I won't get the wording right since I wasn't the student, but it's, some students are there to get their marriage degree or something like
Yeah,
that. So,
yeah.
but it is a fantastic school, and I know we're not here to plug colleges, but I will put in a plug for Grove City College. It was a blessing for our family.
We've had a
Absolutely.
lot of graduates from our online school go there.
Yeah.
Dave, thank you so much. This is really insightful. I hope people will contact you by finding you at Scholarship GPS, a unique enough name that there won't be many other hits. You'll be easy to find. And I'm sure that the small amount of money they might invest in your services will pay great rewards. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was great. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Folks, thanks again for joining us at Veritas Vox, the voice of classical Christian education. We look forward to seeing you next time.